Hi, this is Mike Messier. I want to talk about this Starrcade versus WrestleCade situation, and some fans just, in social media circles are wondering why isn't Starrcade, the WWE version of Starrcade tonight, on the network? Why didn't they bother? The reality is twofold. One, they want to compete or blow away WrestleCade, which is this Winston-Salem Convention Center, Benton Convention Center in Winston-Salem. They want people to not go to that, so they're just doing something, their own little Starrcade, basically just to compete with this independent convention of sorts that has, some wrestlers in it. Some with WWE ties, some with old NWA ties, some with both, TNA wrestlers, ECW probably, all types of talented stars you're familiar with are at this WrestleCade thing. And what better way to screw with the independent people than to have an official WWE fucking thing? So that's why they're doing Starrcade. And it's basically also now, why isn't it on the network? You can say a few reasons. They could say oversaturation is probably the reason WWE would give you, which is they just had Survivor Series. They have Raw, they just have Nitro, and just one more event in November. Did I say Nitro? I meant SmackDown. But they have all these things that kind of pollute the environment of what they're presenting. So to have one more big show, even on the network, which probably wouldn't cost them a whole lot, maybe what, 20 or 30 grand extra to bring in the cameras and so forth with the crew. I mean, everyone's there anyway. Bring a few cameras in. So why? And they would probably even get a few spikes. So there would probably be a few people out there who say, I'm going to pay the $10 this month, or I'm going to start my subscription and send again to see what they do with Starrcade. But the real reason is, folks, they want to devalue the original Starrcade. Okay, they want you to think that the original Starrcade from the 80s and the 90s, that WCW and later, well, first NWA, then WCW, they want you to think that that original Starrcade was just some rinky-dink house of show piece of crap. Now, of course, they've already had the Essential Starrcade DVD release. They've already hyped up Starrcade. But to have Tony Schiavone, no offense to Tony, reading off cue cards to promote this thing, to have a pretty average, slightly above average house show lineup with just a SmackDown roster, it's their way, not even subtly, it's very obvious to me, their way of devaluing the Carlos Colon versus Abdullah the Butcher match at Starrcade 83. The Magnum TA Tully Blanchard I Quit match. To just have Jinder Mahal versus AJ Styles in a cage, just to throw them in there and let them do their thing. And most likely, they will have Charlotte retain, I would assume. It would make more sense if they had held off. I mean, but I guess they wanted to hot shot, Survivor Series and have Charlotte go over Alexa Bliss, so they didn't want to bounce the women's title of SmackDown back and forth too much. But the bottom line, folks, is if you're going to Starrcade tonight, if you're a wrestler receiving a paycheck, go ahead. If you're a fan who feels that just that Starrcade name alone in Greensboro is enough to get you back into that place and put your money in Vince's pocket, then go ahead. But don't be naive and wonder why aren't they putting it on the network? They're not putting it on the network to devalue the original Starrcade. It's to make you think that WrestleMania was the biggest granddaddy thing of them all, which I believe at one point they were using that term, the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania. At some point around 2008, 2009, I think they started saying that. But of course, Starrcade used to be the granddaddy of them all. It's just another way of them rubbing your face in it. We won, you lost, that's it. So for people that are wondering, why don't they put this on the network? It's not only because they're just doing the show at all to compete with WrestleCade, which I have no loyalty to. WrestleCade's not paying me. They're basically doing it to devalue your memories, okay? They're basically doing it as a little tweak of revisionist history. Starrcade was always this little thing that they did in Greensboro, and it had some closed circuit. It didn't do great numbers on the big show, on the big pay-per-view world. And Survivor Series is the greatest fucking thing for Thanksgiving. Of course, it's not even on Thanksgiving. It's on Saturday after Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving wrestling is more or less on a national, international scale is dead. Maybe there was some international Japanese thing. I'm sure there was. I'm sure I'm forgetting some fucking promotion somewhere had something on Thanksgiving night. But as far as a national wrestling show, WCW, NWA, WWF, WWE, that level, no. This is not a real Starrcade. This is I'm sure if you've bought your ticket, I'm not telling you to rip up your ticket in protest, but just don't be naive and wonder, oh my God, they should have put it on the network. I'm sure the wrestlers, as they usually do, will go out there and bust their fucking asses. Will Charlotte or Natalia juice? Will they bleed for the match? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, they typically don't have the women or anybody really blade or juice anymore, but that was a big component of those original Starrcades. Magnum, the Koloffs, the Rock and Roll, so forth. So you're not going to see any fucking scaffold matches. And look, if Steamboat and Flair come out and shake hands and do a hug, I mean, they never even had a Starrcade match against each other, but they both competed at the original 1983 Starrcade. Is it a nice thing to do? Sure. But it's also an insulting thing to do for real fans, okay? So that's it. That's your goddamn Starrcade thoughts and analysis. If you've already bought your ticket, I'm not telling you to pull over on the road and cry or rip up your ticket. But before you go to Starrcade tonight, or before you pontificate what the hell's going on in Greensboro tonight, just realize, don't be uneducated, this is a move to humiliate and spit on the memory of the original Starrcade. That's why WWE is not having their fucking Starrcade, their WWE-cade on the network tonight. So just be informed.